Hey guys, today is day 12, and today I'm talking about strengths and weaknesses. And I have a question that I'd like to ask you after you pull out your journals. I've already pulled out a few pages from my journal, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've written in my journal, and I hope that you are able to reflect and do the same. So I encourage you to type up your stuff as well. I usually write, and then sometimes I go back and type it up so that I can use these pages so that I can share some of this with you. So the question I have for you is, what position are you applying for? What position are you applying for? You know, when you apply for a job, there is typically a question either on the application or somewhere during the interview process in which they ask you, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Why do they ask you that? They ask you that because a great addition to their company would be someone who's well aware of their strengths and weaknesses. Someone who is honest about their strengths and weaknesses. Because here's the thing, most people won't be honest about their weaknesses. They will tell you their strengths, but typically not their weaknesses. Or they'll give you very minute weaknesses or weaknesses that they're okay with everybody knowing about. Most people kind of guard and shield their weaknesses. That's just kind of what we do. But part of dealing with yourself and part of being a successful leader, part of being a great parent, a great spouse, part of being just a great person overall is a person who knows where they are weak and where they are strong. There are so many people that will tell you, you can have it all. Your weaknesses are only in your mind. Just work hard and so on and so forth. You know what? Some of that is true. But some of us all of us truly do have deficits in certain areas of life. Now, some weaknesses we create on our own. But we all truly do have some real weak areas where we need to strengthen, and where even some of us have tried really hard to strengthen those areas and have been unsuccessful. So I want you to consider that. Look at this. We see successful people on TV all the time, wealthy people who, they had it all, but they never dealt with their weaknesses early on. They only built upon their strengths and they went with it. And some of these very same people we see in and out of rehab, in and out of unhealthy relationships, and unfortunately sometimes taking their own lives because those weaknesses were there festering throughout the most successful times of their lives. So I want you to deal with your weaknesses right now before you get there. Okay? So anyway, I want to also talk to you about when you feel inadequate. Sometimes your weaknesses will make you feel inadequate. They will make you feel insufficient and even incompetent when you're in certain situations. And that's okay to some extent. But if it's affecting your emotional well-being and you're in a position, whether it's a job or relationship, or whatever it is, you need to get out of it. If it's making you feel that it's making you feel uncomfortable and that you're not supposed to be there, this isn't your place, get out of it if you can. Now, before you get out of it, I encourage you to try to strengthen that area first to see what can be done. Never just leave or quit on anything without first evaluating, first of all, whether or not you want to be there. And if you decide you don't want to be there, then just leave unless there's some other purpose that you're there. But if you want to be there and you're not effective, figure out why you're not effective and how you can improve and ask for help. Okay? So there are some situations where you should leave and there are some that you should stay. For example, if you're not a good parent or you're not a good spouse, you can't just leave your family. You have to work hard at strengthening the areas where you're weak. Okay? So just know that there's no such thing as a perfect spouse or a perfect parent. Just work on getting better in the areas where you need to get better. Now, let's talk about, I'm just going to give an example of weaknesses and how sometimes weaknesses can have you in the wrong position. Sometimes it's because we're chasing a certain position. If you're a 5'3" man and you're going into the NBA and you have been a guard That's what you're good at. That's where you're strong at. But you desire to be a center. Being a 5'3" male typically does not make you a good center. Doesn't mean you can't be a center. But you get on the team, you say, Coach, I don't want to be guard anymore. I want to play center. Coach is like, okay, that's fine. But I don't know how that's going to work out for you. You're good enough to be a center. But more than likely, at 5'3", you're going to ride the bench as a center. As long as you're okay with that, that's fine. But you know that at 5'3", as great of a player as you are, you could be on the starting five as a guard. So what are you going to do? Are you going to be on the starting five as a guard, or be that center because you've always wanted to be a center and just sit on the bench? It's up to you. You know, there's no right or wrong in that situation, but just know that sometimes that is the case. There are times when you need to make a decision and say, you know what? This isn't my place. This isn't my area. I will leave this up to the 6'5" guys and move on over to the guard because that's where I'm great at. So some people will say, no, work hard. You're going to be the best center. You know, just keep doing it. Keep going. Keep going. Well, you know what? They might be great. They might be right. You might be a great guard, but not necessarily, or a great center, but not necessarily the best. Anyway, so some people will never, ever, ever make the decision to leave that position that they know is not for them, and that's okay. Some people will leave too soon, and that is also okay. But either way, don't let other people choose for you. You have to be the one to decide when you leave that position, or if you do leave that position. All right. So now, one thing I want to mention before I leave today is that some people are chasing a position that was never meant for them. And how do you know that you're chasing a position that was never meant for you? Typically, for most people, you start losing stuff, chasing that position. You losing stuff that you shouldn't be losing, like your family, your morals, your values. Okay, so if you are shedding, because sometimes you got to shed layers as you're working towards your life goals. Some people have to go, some things have to go, and so on and so forth. But when you start losing your spouse and your children and, you know, the support of the people that love you, then that is something that you might really want to consider. You know, they say that it's lonely at the top, and I believe that is because many people push aside the things that should be important instead of holding on to those. Like they hold on to the wrong things, but they let go of the right things. And so when they finally get there and achieve that success, they look next to them on both sides and there's nobody. So which will you do? Who will you be? Identify your strengths and your weaknesses so you can be the best version of yourself. Okay, guys? And also decide what position you're playing, what position you're applying for, and if you are on the right spot. Also, sometimes you have to ask, am I even on the right team? I'll see you soon. Tomorrow's day 13.